Inside the cabin of the plane that was driving steadily over the European skies, the atmosphere felt much calmer than the hustle and bustle they left on the ground. Kim Taehyung and Taehyung Jungkook are now in a different phase of their journey. It's no longer about the destination, but about the breaks they rarely have. The cabin lights are dimmed, creating a warm feel that makes some passengers start to fall asleep. But to Taehyung Jungkook, his eyes were still open, staring out the window with an expression that was hard to guess. Outside, a stretch of dark clouds mixed with the rest of the twilight light that slowly disappeared. There was something in the scene that seemed to draw him to think more deeply. In the chair next to him, Kim Taehyung sat with a slight leaning position, headphones stuck to his ears. The music he listened to was not heard by anyone, but his expression was enough to show that he was immersed in a certain atmosphere. Every now and then, he opened his eyes, glanced towards the window, then closed his eyes again, as if enjoying every second of his journey. Traveling from Switzerland is not just a change of location. For both, this was the end of a moment that could not be easily explained. Switzerland has given them space to breathe, to laugh without pressure, and to share time without the distractions of the usually noisy outside world that a few hours earlier, while they were still at the airport, the atmosphere felt different. Not many words were said, but small gestures were enough to describe what they felt. Kim Taehyung paused for a moment before entering the boarding gate, looking back with a longer than usual gaze, while Taehyung Jungkook just stood beside him, waiting without urging, as if understanding that the moment needed to be felt to the fullest. Now, on the plane, all of that feels like a warm memory. The stewardess came over offering a drink, breaking the silence for a moment. Taehyung Jungkook chose mineral water, while Kim Taehyung just nodded quietly, accepting whatever was given without saying much. The interaction is simple, yet still feels intimate in its own way. Sometime later, Taehyung Jungkook finally leaned back, closing his eyes. However, before he was completely asleep, he had time to say something slowly, something that was barely audible amid the sound of the aircraft engine. Kim Taehyung opened his eyes, turned his head, then smiled slightly. There's no long answer, just a short response that is enough to make the atmosphere re-warm. Time goes imperceptibly. Outside the window, the sky began to change, from pitch dark to a deep blue that was slowly infiltrated by the morning light. It was a sign that they were getting closer to Korea, a place where reality would again welcome them with all its busyness and responsibility. But oddly enough, there is no noticeable heaviness. Kim Taehyung instead looked calmer, like someone who had discovered something during this trip, while Taehyung Jungkook, who was now slowly waking up, looked around with a lighter expression than before. They did not need to say that this trip is meaningless. It was already evident from the way they understood each other without many words, from the way they appreciate silence, from the way they let each other be themselves. When an announcement from the pilot is heard, informing that the plane is about to land, the two prepare. Seat belts were put on, seats were enforced, and the world outside began to be seen more clearly. Korea is in sight. But before the plane's wheels actually hit the runway, there was one small moment that happened. Taehyung Jungkook turned his head towards Kim Taehyung, and for no apparent reason, the two smiled. Not a big smile, not something far-fetched, just a simple smile full of meaning. Perhaps it is their way of admitting that what they have just gone through is not something out of the ordinary. In a fast-paced world, they find time to stop, to feel, and to truly live in the moment. And when the plane finally lands smoothly, the trip is officially over. Or maybe, as usual, just morph into a memory they'll carry with them wherever they go. Because for Kim Taehyung and Taehyung Jungkook, every trip is not just about the places they visit, but about what they discover within themselves and each other. As soon as the wheels of the plane actually touch the runway, with subtle vibrations felt throughout the cabin, the atmosphere seemed to change slowly. That long journey has finally come to an end, but that's precisely where more complex feelings begin to emerge. Kim Taehyung looked straight ahead, his hands casually folded, but his eyes showed that he was still deep in thought. While beside him, Taehyung Jungkook let out a deep breath, like someone who had just finished something important. The plane slowed down, moving slowly towards the gate. The announcement sounds again, this time more formal, signaling that they have arrived in Korea. But for both, the word arrived feels like more than just a location. It was a sign that the world they had temporarily left behind was now back waiting. Taehyung Jungkook unfastened his seatbelt a little faster, then sat down again for a moment, as if he didn't really want to stand up yet. He glanced at Kim Taehyung, who was still silent, then smiled slightly. "We're here," he said quietly, almost like a reminder, not a statement. Kim Taehyung nodded slightly. There was no long response, but the gesture was enough. He then took off his headphones, rolled them up neatly, a small habit that indicated that he was preparing to return to reality. Passengers began to stand up one by one, open the upper compartment, take their things. The atmosphere that was once calm is now filled with the sound of steps, quiet conversations, and the friction of suitcases. But in the midst of all that, the two still moved with a slower rhythm, as if they didn't want to rush to end the remaining moment. When they finally stood up, there was a brief pause, not because it was obstructed, but like giving yourself space to really accept that this journey was over. Taehyung Jungkook picks up his bag, making sure everything is complete, while Kim Taehyung glances out the window one last time. The Korean sky greeted them with a different color lighter, more decisive. Unlike the Swiss sky that feels serene and distant, this sky feels close, real, and full of things waiting to be lived. They began to walk out of the plane, following the flow of other passengers. The narrow passageway felt like the final transition, from a world full of pauses to a world that returned in rapid motion. There are no cameras in there, no highlights, just footsteps that come back to blend in with reality. But interestingly, there was no drastic change in their expressions. Kim Taehyung remained with his trademark calmness, while Taehyung Jungkook carried a lighter energy, as if the journey did not drain them, but rather filled something that was previously empty. When they finally stepped out of the plane door and set foot in the airport area, the air felt different. More familiar, but also brings responsibilities that have been waiting. In the distance, airport staff and several attendants were already on standby, signaling that their private moments were slowly coming to an end. Taehyung Jungkook walked a little ahead, then looked back briefly, making sure Kim Taehyung was still there. A small habit that many may not be aware of, but it is enough to show how they always walk in the same rhythm. And in that moment, without much of a word, the two continued on their way, back to the world that knew them as great figures, but with something new that only the two of them understood. The journey from Switzerland may be over, but what they bring home is so much bigger than just memories. It was calmness, understanding, and perhaps also answers to things that they had not had time to think about. And behind it all, one thing feels certain: whatever lies ahead, they didn't really start from scratch. They carry part of that journey with them, in silence, yet alive in every step they take after this.